What's the best hot hatch for £35,000? That's the question we're trying to answer today, and we have the brand new Golf GTI, the Hyundai i30N, the Mercedes AMG A35 and the Ford Focus ST. Yes, I know there are more hatches, but we can't drive 16 cars at once. This is what we have today. What's the best looking? Well, there's the Focus ST, which is about as trendy as Snapchat. Then there's the A35, way too expensive. The i30N, thinking man's hatchback maybe. Could you bring yourself to buy a Hyundai hatchback for £30,000 though? I don't think so. Which one would I get? I don't know. They're all the same practicality, they're all the same comfort. Get the white one. There. What? Or you want me to do it properly? I just want to drive some Lambos, man. Fine.
The Golf GTI was the original hot hatch, and some might say it's still the best. This is the hotly anticipated 8th generation model, which promises a better blend of handling, refinement, technology and speed than ever before. But in a world full of brilliant rivals, it's not going to have things all its own way. The Ford Focus ST, the people's champion, the Hyundai i30N, the newest upstart, and the Mercedes A35, which sits at the premium end of the scale, are all rivals that live in the same £33,000 or less price bracket. So, has VW brought enough to the party to help its latest GTI stay ahead?
On the surface, the new GTI looks nice and fresh. To my eyes, it's a really good looking car, arguably the best looking car here. And if you take the Mercedes A35 out of the equation, it could be the most desirable. I wasn't a massive fan of the standard Golf when it first came out, but the GTI actually looks really, really nice. I love the wide grille. The headlights are a little bit on the weird side, but I'm also a big fan of the checkered flag LEDs on either side. I also like the interior. I love these tartan effect sport seats, and even though there's quite a lot of plastic in here, it's nice plastic. On the whole, it's quite well put together. What I don't like is the fact that VW are relying so heavily on touchscreens for their interfaces. It's not a good look, believe me. I mean, I've gone on record multiple times as saying that I'm not a fan of this car's infotainment system, and I'll say it again. It's not great. I'll give you an example of why this is so bad, and there are quite a few. But this morning I was driving to location and it was pitch black, and inside the car, even though the lights were on, I couldn't see where the temperature controls are or where the volume controls are. None of it is illuminated, so you have to guess what's going on. You have to literally feel all across the dashboard before you can change the temperature of the cabin. I mean, sure, yeah, it's something you will get used to over time, but I don't want to have to get used to something as simple and as basic as that. Credit where it's due though, this car feels nice and soft and plush. This particular model has the dynamic chassis control system, which can independently adjust the dampers on the fly within 2 milliseconds to soften up each corner of the car, depending on what's going on with the road surface, and it works really well. Plus, if you want to adjust things yourself, you can do that. You can dive into the settings and actually select from 14 different softness levels for the suspension. 14! It's overkill, but this car is an absolute joy to drive anywhere, anytime. It's a great daily.
But the engine won't blow your socks off. The 2-litre turbo in this car makes the least power in the entire group, with only 245 PS and 370 Newton meters of torque. Faster versions will come later, namely the Golf R, but here, now, and with a 0 to 62 time of 6.3 seconds, this feels comparatively lethargic.
However, it's absolutely fantastic through the corners because it's not quick in a straight line. You find yourself wanting to carry as much speed as possible through the bends, and as a result, arriving at a corner very, very rapidly. And when you get there, it just sticks. It's a tremendous car through the corners. Right, this is quite a low speed one. Let's see what happens. Will it understeer? It's hanging on pretty gamely, little bit washing out towards the end, but that balance is just, it's really good. It's surprisingly capable for a car that's not that quick in a straight line. Tyres are obviously a big part of that. It's using Bridgestone Potenzas, developed specifically for the GTI, and I've got to say, even in these cold, damp conditions, they're doing a pretty fantastic job of keeping this car on the straight and narrow. Very impressive in the bends. Right, let's see what it's like through a higher speed corner. It's not the most playful thing in the world, and you can't actually switch the traction control off. So it actually feels a little bit like it's being strangled by the electronics, but you can still have a good time in this thing. It's actually quite hilarious when you push on.
So it drives well, but is it a bit too sensible? Does it lack the slightly rebellious, antisocial edge that makes hot hatches so desirable? Well, I know a really good way to find out.
Right, what we're going to do is have ourselves a little bit of a sound off to see which one of these hot hatches sounds the best. Dan, give the GTI a little rev, mate. Dan, give it a rev, mate. Shocking. All right, ST, let's hear you. That is more than decent. I'm coming back to that. All right, A35, let's hear you. It's only coming out of one hole. All right, i30N, let's go. Yeah, I think I've gone slightly deaf there. All right, I'm having a go in this. Let's go.
Within seconds of jumping into the i30N, you'll find out that it's genuinely mad. Where the GTI feels sensible, sane, and well-rounded, this thing just feels unhinged.
Part of that is down to the noise. I'm not sure there's another hot hatch on the market. I mean, the Focus ST is a close second, but I'm not sure there is another one that sounds quite as antisocial as this. Sounds like gunshots every single time you accelerate. Then there's the ride. It's really firm, really bobbly, really involving. I mean, that's not always a good thing, especially in the UK where so many of our roads are less than perfect. But one thing it does, it makes you feel like part of the experience when you drive this car. Weirdly, this new i30N is actually a bit softer than I remember. Hyundai have actually slackened off the dampers ever so slightly, so it's actually more livable than it used to be. But believe me, it's still the firmest car here by a massive margin. You feel everything in this car. You also feel tremendous amounts of acceleration. The i30N has a 2-litre engine, but it makes 275 horsepower, which is 30 horsepower more than you get in the Golf GTI. The Golf, weirdly enough, actually has more torque than the i30N, but the torque in the i30 is available over a much wider spread. So it definitely feels more urgent, almost no matter where you are in the rev range. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the power in this car. 0 to 62 in 5.9 seconds, around half a second quicker than the Golf GTI. It feels more urgent, but it's not perfect. One of the things I don't like about the i30N is the fact that it has massive trouble putting its power down. It uses Pirelli P0 tires, and I'm not gonna lie, they're actually pretty hopeless in weather conditions like this. Look at that, I'm washing out wide. Every time you put the power down, it seems to spin up. You've got no traction coming out of bends. And also, it's not the most trustworthy car when you go hammering into a braking zone. Watch this, on the brakes, it seems to take that much longer to bring itself to a standstill or a point where you can turn in compared to the other cars. I also feel like I can't lean on it through the corners as much as I'd want to because it seems to want to push wide, and then when you get on the power again, the wheels just spin up massively. And you end up laying enormous 11s as you accelerate out of a slow corner. It just feels unhinged, like a hooligan basically. To this car's credit, it's got one thing the other cars haven't got. This weird little stick down here, which means when you bang it into a corner, look at that, it's still spinning. It's ridiculous, this car. Yeah, it's a bit of a roller coaster, this i30N, especially compared to the Golf GTI. This car just feels as if it's struggling to do anything in these weather conditions. I have no doubt that in dry weather that these Pirelli P0s will be fine, but out here in the UK, in the cold and the damp, it's a massive handful.
Having said that, any preconceptions you might have about a lack of quality in this car's interior, well, you can put those to bed. The i30N might be the cheapest car here at less than £30,000, but it's well put together, has decent quality materials, and feels a lot better to sit in than you might think. All things considered, it's very nice.
But it's not as nice as the Mercedes AMG A35. Not many cars are, to be fair. I mean, don't get me wrong, the interior in the i30N is good, and the interior in the Golf is very good, but the A35 is excellent. I mean, I love everything about it. Look at these. They look great, they feel great. I love the leather, the chrome, the ambient lights glistening off literally everything inside here. And also the screens, it's got two enormous displays in front of you that just look fantastic. And the whole thing is easy to use. And the reason for that is Mercedes have a team of engineers who travel the world looking for the perfect button. Their own knob gang, if you will. Their job is literally to discover the perfect button throw and pressure and feel, and then apply that to their cars.
But the A35 isn't just good at being plush, it delivers when it comes to luxury, and it also delivers where it matters: performance. From a standstill, nothing else in this group comes close. Against the GTI, a drag race is a foregone conclusion, especially in damp weather. The Merc has better traction, better power, better performance.
Oh yes, the A35 is the most powerful hatchback in this group by some distance. It also uses a 2-litre turbo engine, but this 2-litre turbo makes 306 horsepower, which is 61 horsepower more than the Golf GTI. 61! It also makes a whopping 400 newton meters of torque, which means it's just rapid. You put your foot down, it takes off every single time. I love this gearbox as well. You pull the paddles and it reacts super quickly up and down through the box. Put your foot down, grab an upshift, and it's lightning quick, so much quicker than the box in the Golf GTI. It also sounds really nice. Okay, yeah, quite a lot of the sound is actually artificial. It gets piped in to the cabin via speakers, but whether it's real or not, it sounds real good. You get these lovely pops as you work your way up the box. The sound of the engine, combined with those pops on the upshift, just makes this a really quite engaging car, more engaging than you might think. But it's not the torque or the power that's the really impressive thing about this car. It's the fact it has all-wheel drive, so when you come into a low-speed corner like this and get on the power, it just shoots its way out of there with no hesitation. All the other cars spin their wheels and struggle for grip. This thing, traction all day long.
It really does pull hard. Most of these hatches do 0 to 62 in around 6 seconds. This does it in 4.7 in almost any type of weather.
If I was being super critical of this car, I would say that it does understeer a little bit, especially in greasy conditions, but you'd probably expect that from an all-wheel drive car. I'd also criticize the fact that it might not be as playful, especially on the limit, as some of the best hot hatches in the market. But honestly, I'm really splitting hairs because it's hilarious. It shouldn't be this fun. It really shouldn't.
The A35 doesn't have a drift mode like its bigger brother, the A45S, but it can still throw shapes. Switch off the traction control and bang that throttle mid-corner and eventually it will slide. So it gives you the option of being neat and tidy through a corner or using power oversteer like a hooligan. And that's something the other cars in this test simply can't do. So, where does that leave the Focus ST? This is a car that, for large periods of time, has lived in the shadow of its bigger brother, the Focus RS. It's not as powerful, it's not the most exciting looking, squint and you might mistake it for a 1-litre EcoBoost, nor is it very trendy in this company. Some might say it lacks the exterior and interior pizzazz to shine next to a GTI, A35, or even an i30N.
That's a bit of an understatement, actually. Coming out of a Mercedes A35 and into a Focus ST is a bit like coming out of a 5-star suite in a Dubai hotel and into a Travelodge. It's a bit of a step down, unless you're a big fan of plastic, because there's a lot of plastic in here. Plastic on the center console, plastic on the dash. It's, yeah, not the highest quality interior you're gonna find. if you're a bit of a snob when it comes to interior quality, you're not gonna like sitting in it. But you are gonna like driving it. This car wasn't built for posers. It was built for people who love to drive. And drive is what this thing does best. It is brilliant. Within seconds of getting behind the wheel, you can feel that this car was made by people who care about driving, who love driving, and all of that expertise and attention to detail has just filtered into the ST. It is, it's so good. Most cars in this test use a 2-litre turbocharged engine. Ford have said to hell with that and to hell with downsizing. They've installed a 2.3-litre turbocharged engine that makes astonishing power, 280 PS, which is way more than the Golf GTI. The suspension is brilliant, not too soft, not too hard, perfectly judged. This gearbox is delicious, precise, slick, and the steering is an absolute joy. It feels way more alive, way more communicative. Look at me, I'm on the edge of the grip right here, but I can feel that. Get on the power. The whole thing just feels so well put together. All the departments in Ford were talking to each other when they built the Focus ST. It is a cohesive joy. It's the cornering that's the best bit in this car though, by far. You get into a corner, get on the brakes nice and early, they stop the car superbly. Then it's got torque vectoring by braking, so it brakes the inside wheels to get the car rotated nice and early. And it's got an ELSD, an electronic limited slip differential, which just lets it put the power down tremendously. Where the i30N was struggling, where most front-wheel drive cars tend to struggle, this doesn't. This just digs in and pulls itself out of the bend ridiculously. So impressive. Honestly, this car is a completely different animal to the other cars in this test. It just drives like it was built by people who love building cars like this. And you can drive it any way you want. You can be a bit of a hooligan with it, you can hustle it, or you can be delicate. Just let the engineering do the work. I'm having so much fun in this car. It is genuinely brilliant, genuinely. When they discontinued this car's bigger brother, the Focus RS, part of me was really, really disappointed, thinking that the ST just couldn't hack it, that it wasn't a good enough car to live up to that legacy, but I was wrong, 100%. This car, it's one of the best hot hatches on the market today. What a thing.
Now we've sampled all of these cars, some of you might be wondering which of these hot hatches is the quickest around the lap. Well, we found out. Off the line, the A35's all-wheel drive system and launch control give it an immediate lead. The i30N's Pirellis, meanwhile, leave it playing catch-up, wheel spinning and getting nowhere fast. By this point, it's clearly between the Mercedes and the Focus, but keep an eye on the Golf. It might lack power, but superior grip from those Bridgestone tyres mean it's still ahead of the i30N. As we approach the decisive corner on this track, the big right-hander where you can win and lose everything, the Mercedes is clean and tidy. The ST too, thanks to Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tyres. Then it's a sprint to the finish, and over the line, the A35 is nearly 2 seconds quicker than the Focus. Credit to the Golf too. Even though it has the worst power of this group, it only misses second place by a tenth. If the Hyundai had better tyres, it would definitely be right up there in the mix as well.
I think what we've learned today is that all 4 of these cars are brilliant in their own way. The Ford Focus ST is probably the most accomplished in terms of performance, fun and handling. The A35 is definitely the most plush, the most luxurious, the car that makes you feel best when you're sitting inside it. And then there's the i30N. It's just a hooligan. This is the car you want to buy just for the sound alone. Where does that leave the new Golf GTI though? Well, on the surface you could argue that maybe it isn't quite as good as any of these cars in any particular way. Or you could argue that it offers just the right blend of everything.
Amongst this group, I'd say the GTI is the best daily. if you can't afford the A35, which is frankly the best all-rounder. The i30N is the most hilarious, and the Focus ST is the best driver's car. But that's my opinion. Let us know in the comments below what you think, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Whichever hot hatch you go for, I don't think there's any doubt that you're in for a very, very good time.